Morning Talk on SAFM.
Well, it's a very good morning to you, and Merry Christmas, everybody. Well, on the eve of Christmas Day, Merry Christmas, and we wish you a very, very special holiday for you and your family. If you're celebrating it on your own, and sometimes it does happen, you know, people aren't with their families, or maybe you are in a home or you're in a hospital and so on. Well, we're here, and we'll keep you company between 9 and 12 o'clock. Now, if you're driving anywhere in the country, please exercise the utmost caution. The numbers aren't looking good at all. In fact, one fatality is one fatality too many. So please exercise the utmost caution. Drive for all the other drivers who are on the road, and make sure that the roads are safe for all of us. Okay, coming up between 9 and 12 o'clock, we start off with the mass media and political coverage. Is South Africa ready for a partisan media? Today we examine and scrutinize the role of the media, particularly focusing on its coverage of political stories, rallies and campaigns. What are your thoughts? In the aftermath of Mangaung, you look at the media and you think, well, excellent coverage, bipartisan, or was it just simply partisan? We're going to be joined in a few moments by Nhlanhla Mdaka, Executive Director of Ingabati Group, a political research and strategic planning company, and also the former editor of City Press, Matata Tsedu. And then at 10 o'clock, of course, referring to the point I was making just now, driving safely. Road safety during the festive season, it's very important. 750 deaths already reported on South African roads since the beginning of this month. So we'll be joined by the Deputy Minister of Transport, Sindisiwe Chikunga, to talk about road safety during this period, and just urging you again, please exercise the utmost caution. Psychological matters with Joanna Cleverlow, how to stay positive on top of your game during this festive season and having a good time. And then after 11 o'clock, we'll be joined by Jabu Hlongwane, talking about his contribution to South Africa's music and how music has changed his outlook on life. And then, of course, More Ants by Annika Foxcroft, read by Louise St. Clair. So that's your 3 hours, punctuated, of course, by calls from you at 0891 104 207, 0891 104 207. Let's welcome our guests on the line, and Nhlanhla Mdaka of Ingabati Group. Nhlanhla, good morning to you.
Morning, Vuyo, and your listeners.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Also welcoming Matata Tsedu, formerly with City Press. Matata, good morning.
Morning, but the line is very bad. I can hardly hear you now.
Good morning. Let's try again. Maybe we'll ask Lebogang to give you a call again, and let's see if it can get better. Nhlanhla, let's start off talking just about partisanship in reporting. What are your thoughts? Is the South African media balanced, fair, bipartisan as things stand?
Well, firstly, let us acknowledge the role of the media in general in promoting the culture of people knowing what is happening around them. Through reporting, providing space in the case of the newspaper, of columnists commenting about developing stories. But my view is that unfortunately in South Africa currently, media has been partisan. Mm-hmm. And in my view, that is dangerous, because in being partisan, it's taking away the right of citizens to make their own decisions. Mm-hmm. Because if I'm buying a paper or if I'm listening to SAFM, I don't want to hear about one side. I want to hear about the festival of ideas, so that as a reader, as a listener, as a citizen, I'll take my own decision. Unfortunately, the media currently in South Africa, they are not giving us that by looking, for example, where journalists will rely on so-called sources. When you're reading carefully, you could see that what is a story by a journalist, in all fairness, is not even a story. It's this journalist trying to send a message to me as a reader.
Yeah.
Hence, I'm saying reading newspapers, particularly when it comes to the issue of the ANC,
yeah,
I think the media has failed us as citizens, has failed to give us a bigger picture of what was this conference all about, why it's important for me as a citizen who is not a member of the ANC. Instead, the media has ended up supporting certain individuals within the battle of the presidency within the ANC. And I even accuse the media of not being fair to other parties. For example, during this year, we had three major conferences in my view.
Okay.
The first one was the conference of the DA.
Mm-hmm.
The DA is an opposition party for you. How many of us who have been informed about the policies of the DA?
Mm-hmm.
By the media? Nothing, but people people were talking about the ANC. We had the IFP, who have been in the media for not hosting its conference. How many of these newspapers reported about the discussion or even resolution of the IFP? No. Now, no one but people were talking about the ANC. I'm saying because of media being partisan, they even taken away our right as citizens to know what other organizations are doing, because we should know about other opposition parties so that we'll be able to make our informed decision when it's time to vote.
Okay. Matata, let's hear from you. What are your thoughts about the media right now? Has it played a fair and balanced role in South African society, in the build-up to Mangaung even?
Thanks, Rio. I think to start with, it's very difficult to speak about this omnibus called the media, because it's individual titles, individual radio stations, individual television channels, each of which has its own market and people that it is directing its messages at, and therefore tailors its message accordingly.
Okay.
Now, to start saying, did the media cover Mangaung properly, you have to segmentize and go into each of those things and say, how did this publication do it? How did SAFM do it? How did so-and-so do it? To just go glibly at, like the media didn't even cover something. It's too wide and wrong, actually.
Yeah. Can't you make an assessment, though, on the basis of the coverage done? Can't you look at it and say, well, on the balance of probabilities, was a good job done, or there are areas of improvement and that kind of stuff? Because, yes, segmentize and all of that, but if you're covering the news, you're covering the news, and if the top story is the ANC in Mangaung, that's the top story.
Yeah, and insofar as I am concerned, if you read the entire spread of newspapers, if for 1 minute we were to just talk newspapers, there was sufficient coverage of the issues around Mangaung and the ANC. There may not have been too much in-depth coverage around policy issues, because those policy issues were not really going to be new at Mangaung. They were covered when the policy conference of the ANC was held, and conference in Bloemfontein or Mangaung was just going to endorse. So there wasn't really too much story angle onto the policies. The big story around Mangaung was the leadership battle, and that was covered to death. Yeah.
Ndanta, the big story in Mangaung was leadership.
First, you'll notice in my introduction, Vuyo, that I've mentioned Mangaung as one of the story. My argument is that the media, from January to December, we have political parties, we have opposition parties, and we have the ruling party. And I'm saying the South African media does not, in my view, and as Matata has said, this is based on me reading and listening and watching news across. It's not giving a fair coverage in terms of individual citizens to make an informed decision. For example, what is the difference between ACDP and ANC when it comes to issues of nationalization? Does the media provide that space for me to understand so that I will make an informed decision? Because remember, this media is supposed to assist us as citizens in making informed decision. And I'm saying, unfortunately, for opposition parties, I'm mentioning DA, it's even better for DA and IFP, but go to smaller parties. We don't know anything about them because the media have elected to deal with certain party, and in this case, when it comes to Mangaung, I'm mentioning Mangaung and DA because the DA conference was in November and the ANC and IFP conferences were in December. I'm saying there was not a good coverage for us as citizens to know what these parties stand for and where they differ so that we'll make an informed decision. Also, Matata, when it comes to the IFP, one will argue that the discussion was about the leadership. When it comes to DA, it was the same issue. So it's not only the ANC who was about leadership. These two other parties had the same issues.
Your presumption, Tlantla, is that all animals are equal.
I'm saying for whatever reason,
and the media should therefore give them equal treatment. Is that the presumption?
If we have to understand that, then I accept. But I'm saying then the media should not present a situation where it must be viewed as dishonest a player in politics, because let us focus now, Matata, on the ANC itself. Vuyo,
but I wanted to deal also with the issues you were raising around whether other parties are actually being covered adequately, and whether they're towards covering the ANC. That is the ANC is a big organization in this country. Its decisions become government policy and affect everybody in this country. So whatever happens with the ANC is important, and you will find that around the ANC and not give enough coverage to other parties. It doesn't really matter whether an organization like the ACDP, or as you've given an example, or AZAPO, or whichever version of the PAC in Parliament says whatever. Those sort of things sometimes don't even get coverage at all, and when they go to their conferences, maybe the SABC might feel obliged to send a camera there and then do a 1 minute piece that just shows people sitting around.
But Matata, what drives?
On the whole, there isn't equal coverage, and there can never be, because those parties are not necessarily equal.
What drives decisions on coverage, for instance? What considerations, what elements are considered to decide, okay, we're going to spend so many hours on the ANC conference, as opposed to we're going to spend so many hours on the DA conference, as opposed to we're going to spend so much time on the IFP conference?
It's news value judgments, and that news value depends on what is seen as the public interest value of that story. So if the Peace Party was to say it is holding a conference, should we as citizens expect the SABC to put out OB vans to go and spend the day covering peace? But if the ANC was to say they are going to Mangaung, and you know that it is going to affect everybody, those decisions that are going to be taken there are going to affect the entire country. So it makes sense. More people would be interested in what is going on there, and therefore you are going to go out there. Whether you're a newspaper, you know that people would want to read that, and they'll buy your paper when they know that you are actually in Mangaung.
Yeah. Ntantla?
Well, firstly, if we follow what Matata is saying in terms of the reasons why the ANC is getting a bigger coverage, then we are saying that those smaller parties should just forget, because they'll never get the coverage.
They must grow into big parties.
I was going to say that. How they are going to grow if you are not exposing them? Because you are exposing those who are big, and they will be bigger, but those who are small, they won't grow. Hence, I'm saying, if that's the approach, then let us discuss that. Is it a good approach that parties, whether you decide that they are small, they should not grow because they are not being promoted? Let us also accept that media play a bigger role in promoting individual leaders and individual political parties. And if you are not giving them space, Matata, what are you expecting from them? Because in all fairness, their parties who have never been covered, the whole 12 months, never been covered, their conferences or meetings.
Yeah. Matata?
Yeah, I was going to say that those considerations that he's making relate to the public duties of the media in terms of informing and educating people. And all sorts of newspapers and radio stations try to do that. When it comes to election time, you'll find efforts being made to ensure that the policies of various parties are put against each other so that people can then make their own judgment. But on and on, there are other dictates around news value that will say it doesn't really matter whether the Peace Party is having a conference. What has that got to do with the price of sugar, as they say?
Okay. 20 minutes past 9 o'clock on SAFM 104 to 107. Now, as I was dashing out of the house, I picked up a book of authorized quotations, Nelson Mandela by himself, and it's absolutely coincidental. There is no other reason why I picked up this book. On the media, this is what the former president had to say, and I want to pick up on some of his remarks here. He says that it was the press that kept the memory of those who had been imprisoned for offences committed in the course of their political activities. It was the press that never forgot us, and we are therefore indebted to you. This was his first press conference after his release in Bishop's Court at Archbishop Desmond Tutu's residence in Cape Town. This was on the 12th of February in 1990. Let's take some calls at 0891 104 207, media coverage. Ntlantla, you know what we'll do? After 9:30, we will focus a little bit more on partisanship, whether South Africa is ready for a media that can be overtly partisan or not yet ready, for instance, such as Fox News and other media organizations in the US. Let's hear from Desmond Emanzimtoti. Desmond, good morning to you. Hello, Desmond. Oh, okay. We seem to have lost Desmond there. 0891 104 207. That's the number to call here on SAFM 104 to 107. Our guest on the telephone, Matata Tsedu, who is formerly an editor of the City Press newspaper, and Tlantla Mtaka is with the Ingabati Group. What are your thoughts on the matter? If you'd like to tweet, you can reach us at Mbuli Vuyo. If you'd like to text 34701, that's where you can reach us as well. I'll tell you what people are saying on Twitter this morning. This one from T21, who says the media should provide balanced service towards all South Africans, not a brainwash from a certain body politic. That's the view of T21. What would constitute brainwash, T21? Is the media providing you with sufficient information to make up your own mind as a reader, as a viewer of news, perhaps as a person who listens to SAFM? Refilwe Mohale says, I strongly agree with the first caller. There was so much focused on what the ANC does than any other issues. Hashtag media coverage. Sia says, great topic. The first gentleman was on point at Mbuli Vuyo. Why were the other party conferences not covered? The number to call is 0891 104 207. You're welcome to tweet at Mbuli Vuyo. You're welcome to text 34701 here on SAFM. Morning Talk. Let's hear from Desmond Emanzimtoti. Good morning, Desmond.
Hi, I'm Mbuli.
Hi, Desmond.
How are you, man?
I'm nice, and you? Merry Christmas to you, man, and your family.
Merry Christmas, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now I'm coming on an angle here.
Yeah, let's hear your angle.
I'm just saying that how does media get into schools?
Okay.
Because actually what happened in our days, people will say, Desmond Adams College. What happened there, we had all the papers in the library there.
Okay.
Even for that matter, even the Transvala was there.
Uh-huh.
Then in the morning, out of breakfast, we went to listen to the news from the radio. But now I'm saying that schools how do people like the experienced Matatu there? That man I know is a vibrant man. How does it get to schools now to influence the schools in the media, so that some of them, because they just don't get there to do journalism just for the sake of working, but they should have all along been listening, be skilled in listening to the news,
okay.
And at the time reading, because that's what keeps the students awake and interested in what the country is run.
Okay. Thank you very much, Desmond. So, media in schools. Let's hear from Steve in PE. Good morning, Steve.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Look, for me, I think there's a complete marginalization of any kind of political debate around a system other than free market capitalism. Mm-hmm. And I think, the biggest example of this in the country is the ANC, which talks left, but walks as right as the DA and any other party in this country. So, I think as soon as you come out with a political party that actually does give a damn about the poor and actually does want to improve education and improve the lives of the poor in this country, you can forget getting any time in the media, because if it's not owned by a big business, then it's controlled by the South African government.
So what should be done?
So, pardon me?
What should be done? You should develop a new political party that cares about the poor more than the current situation?
You're not going to be able to get any time in any space in the media, so you can't. Your hands are tied. There's no way that you could ever... If you start a political party that's actually serious about introducing a socialist system, the only way you'll ever get in this country is through revolution, armed struggle. The other ways are impossible, because no one's ever going to hear about you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Steve. Let's hear from Lindelani in Durban. Lindelani, good morning.
Good morning, Vuyo.
Hi, Lindelani.
Yes, thank you, Sansa, for your spot-on analysis of what is happening in the media. I've always found your analysis very sober and unbiased and seemingly even unfunded. My worry with what Matata said is saying is that he's shifting the goalposts. He's saying that what he's explaining to have been a reason of media not covering policy discussions during the conference of the ANC.
Yeah.
He's shifting that. He's saying that happened during the policy conference. Well, we all know very well that during the policy conference, focus was on what directions are the discussion is taking. Are they taking the alleged Kgalema contestation direction, or are they pro-Jacob Zuma? That has always been at the center of the focus. It has always been on leadership and never on critical policy issues that as a nation want to hear about. Matata must not be disingenuous. Mm-hmm. We all know that our former intellectuals like himself sold their soul to the agenda of the liberal, of this liberal offensive directed at the ruling party. And they are doing this, seemingly there is some support that we do not know where it comes from. Which makes them direct all their energy to the ruling party. We know.
But what do you mean?
They were saying, the focus has been Jacob Zuma, and some have even been so embarrassed that Jacob Zuma has faint. There's been confidence on Jacob Zuma, confirmed by the organization in its entirety. Some could not even pronounce overwhelming endorsement of Jacob Zuma's re-election. Yeah. Because of what they've been saying. And there's been nothing about policy. And let's not be ambiguous about it. Matata must say, has confessed that we've got the ball wrong. I like the quote that you made from the book by Nelson Mandela. That is the then media, when we still had the likes of the New Nation. But people, I don't know what happened post-1994. People have since turned against the ruling party.
Okay, but so what you are saying,
I don't know whether people like him were so offensive to the ruling party as he is now.
So your concern is the nature of reporting about the ruling party, that the media is choosing sides within the ANC itself?
The media seems to even be playing factional politics within the ANC. Why don't people like Matata join the ANC and raise their views within the ANC if they've got such good views about who should lead and who should not lead the ANC?
But is that not what's speaking to what?
I'm referring to analysts, not him maybe in particular.
Okay, all right. Let's leave it at that. Thanks, Lindelani. Let's hear from Mike in Meadowlands. Hello, Mike.
Hello, good morning, Vuyo, and Merry Christmas to you and all your listeners.
And to you, Mike.
Thank you. Thanks for taking my call. Just a quick point. That really these kind of debates worry me a lot, because let's just go back to basics about the media. First of all, the print media is there to make a profit. That's what it does. if you don't like what you read, then don't buy it. It's really that simple. A lot of people complain, particularly the ANC, who never complained, of course, when the old white Nats were in power about the press. They loved the press then. Now they complain because the press shows up all their corruption and fraud and theft and so on. And now they absolutely hate the media, so we have the secrecy bill. But it's really, really simple. If you don't like what the newspapers are writing, don't buy it. And if you believe that there's a market out there and it's the job of the media to educate everybody in the country, or there's a point of view that they're not getting, then by all means start your own newspaper. And I mean, this was done, Boyer, just recently with the New Age, which was started by the Guptas, which are funded ultimately through the Tenders and the Zuma family. And they print up, I believe they even dropped off like 8,000 newspapers a daily at the SABC just to improve their circulation figures. But, that newspaper wouldn't last 5 minutes if it wasn't funded privately. And that is because there's no demand for the paper. So the moaning that we hear generally is people that are unhappy about reading about the theft of the party that they generally benefit from. And then just in conclusion...
But Mike,
yes.
these are people who are entitled to their own views in the same way that you are.
Correct.
Yeah, and also it's not fair to just lash out with unsubstantiated allegations, because you don't know if those people are necessarily tender beneficiaries. They may just simply not be happy with the coverage.
Well, I have to say that, because there can be no logic in any other argument. The fact of the matter is you don't have to buy the newspaper.
Yeah.
If there's a market for a particular point of view, people will buy it. And the fact of the matter is they are not buying the New Age. And that it's really that simple. And the SABC is a classic case in point. I mean, it should be run by the people, for the people, and it takes money from the taxpayer to do that. And
Who
the
takes
SABC
money from the taxpayer?
Sorry, Swear, yeah?
Who takes money from the taxpayer?
The SABC gets money from Parliament, which takes the money from the taxpayer.
Did the SABC get money from Parliament?
Well, it doesn't directly get Parliament, but it's funded by the state, and the state is funded by the taxpayer.
How is it funded by the state?
It's voted on in Parliament. There's a budget that's voted on every year that supports the SABC. And then
the SABC gets 85% of revenue from advertising.
No, I'm sure it does, but the balance of it, and when it needs money and it has to borrow money, it borrows from the state, and the state does support it. The state doesn't support any newspapers, whether it's 1 rand or 10 rand. The fact of the matter is the SABC has an obligation, if you like, to. In fact, it is an obligation to be fair and to ensure that they deliver 100%. I mean, I'm old enough to remember the old SABC when I used to be fed this absolute hogwash from the old National Party telling me only one side of the story. And now we're back there again. The government continues to take our money, and we're getting the one side, hence the fact that we've lost Siki Ngabadeli and that other lady is suspended because the ANC were not involved. Well, where's the fairness in that? It just doesn't seem right.
Let's leave it at that. Thanks, Mike. Let's hear from Nkosikona in KZN. Nkosikona?
Good morning, Vuyo.
Good morning.
Look, Vuyo, a few points.
Yeah.
Any organization must acknowledge that the fund is excellent. Now, Matata must acknowledge that. And if you acknowledge your shortcomings, you will be able to grow in service execution. Now, this guy, Umtanta Mtaka, is giving a constructive criticism.
Yeah.
And instead of Matata acknowledging that as the media there are some loopholes that they have, he is going to, on building the organization as the leader in the media. Now, this defensive stance of Matata, it borders along sheer arrogance, He's just being defensive instead of acknowledging the shortcomings, So that is my contribution. Thank you.
Okay. All right. We'll get a response from Matata. We'll get a response from Nhlanhla Mtaka as well. And then we'll talk about the media going partisan. Is South Africa ready for a partisan media or not? A very good morning to you. It's 25 minutes before 10 o'clock. This is Morning Talk on SAFM. Matata, let's first give you a chance to respond. What are your thoughts? You've heard what the listeners have to say.
Well, there's been a lot of accusations that I'm being defensive. I think all I was trying to do was to explain how decisions are reached. And as someone who is really a news junkie, I consume a a lot of news every day, and I know that there's been a lot of coverage around a lot of issues, but there have also been ideological issues raised. This country in 1994, in choosing the ANC, chose a party that has decided that this country must be ruled in terms of a capitalist system. Now that has consequences not only out there in the industry, but even for the media, because the media that you can have has to be a media that is dependent on money that it is able to make.
Okay.
So it is not a socialist-based media that is trying to just do good. It's trying to do a coverage that will bring it the kind of returns that the investors in that company have made. So to then say that you expect such a media to carry a kind of socialist responsibility, it's unfair. That applies even to the SABC. If society wants the SABC to be less commercial, then they must insist that the 85% that it is making from commercial interests should be reversed into public funding that goes into the SABC. Then you can make the kind of demands that are made on the SABC. But for as long as it is dependent on commercial revenues in the main, it is going to reflect its programming in terms of the AR ratings of audiences, what is being liked, whether it serves some particular good or not, becomes secondary. That's the reality that we have to live with. When I read Nhlanhla's piece around the subject that we're dealing with, I saw that the main thrust was whether people or publications or radio stations should purport to be independent when in fact they are acting in a way that is partisan, and whether we as a country are ready for the kind of system that you have in the UK, where when you open a paper you know that this paper is a Labour supporting paper and this paper is a Conservative supporting paper. You buy it, you read it, and you know. Now, Nhlanhla raised the question about whether we as a country are ready for that kind of media. I think we are, and the New Age was quite upfront about it, that it was going to be a newspaper that was going to be, I'm trying to find the words they used at the time, more supportive of government, half full instead of half empty. You might remember all those billboards at the time. And people who went to work there went knowing that that is what is expected of them. Some went there and then realized it is not something that they were going to be able to live with. People like Vuyo Mvoko and Ms. Brown.
Yeah, okay. I want to give Nhlanhla an opportunity also to feedback.
They felt it wasn't possible.
Yeah.
Now, when you're running a thing like a newspaper and you are an editor, newspapers are knowledge production institutions. And you work with people who themselves are also intellectuals. There's no way you're going to mess around with them and say we are independent when every day you are telling them to be part. It won't work.
Okay.
They'll show you up. So
let's give Nhlanhla a chance to.
It isn't possible for an editor to just run around, rings around his own stuff. It isn't possible.
Nhlanhla?
Firstly, let me deal with what Matata said. He said that they are giving space to political parties during elections. Well, Matata, I'm from the school of thought which says that democracy is not an event. It's 5 years. It is not about elections. In other words, I'm saying I would prefer, as a citizen, to know about the political party from the first year until the election year, not for 2 hours or 2 months before the election, because it does not help. It's unfair. But also I acknowledge that you yourself accept that it's not fair. The coverage is not fair. You are giving your own reasons. I have different views. But at least as citizens now we know that the media who purport fairness from government, the media who want all of us to support when they have their own battles with government and we support them, thinks that we deserve less in terms of 100% coverage. How do you know, for example, Matata, whether parties from, people from minority parties don't want to read about themselves?
Yeah. But Ntanta, what about the view that was put forward by Mike?
That people wanted to know more about ANC and not about AZAPO or DA.
Yeah. Ntanta, what do you make of Mike's view that if you don't want to read that is what is in this newspaper, then go and buy the newspaper that you want to read?
I accept that argument. Hence, I'm saying here we're not arguing about that. We are saying the media, because as I've said, I accept that if you don't want Africa, you must go for Ilanga or the Nature. I have no problem. Other people don't have luxury of doing that. They are listening to SABC, Ukhozi, or SFM, which is free.
But there's Ikagasi as well, which is also free.
I'm trying to say to you, Vuyo, for me, that's not the issue. The issue is, in South Africa, the media, for right or wrong reasons. Now I'm going to the point that Matata said about the question that I've asked about whether we are ready as a country to have a partisan media. In my view, the media have abused us as citizens. We trusted them as people who will be neutral in giving us a fair information so it will make a decision. Instead of that, they move from criticizing into questioning and supporting. When it comes to the ANC, there is nothing wrong. I'm saying it again. There is nothing wrong in criticizing a government, in criticizing a political party. But there is something wrong with the media, which move from that into questioning and even supporting. Other people have been correct in saying that in the media, actually, not only editors, even reporters masquerading as analysts, even columnists, coming as intellectuals, while in all fairness, it was the media giving a space to a particular people to present a particular picture about a particular organization, an individual. And I'm saying...
But with that information at your disposal, do you still not have, with that information at your disposal, does it still not give you the opportunity to make up your own mind? Whether people are giving you analysis or insights or opinion.
All of us in parliament, in universities, we are asked to apologize, to say sorry if we are wrong. Media in South Africa, they are the only institution who can't be bold and say, guys, we've been wrong. Media has been wrong about the ANC. Media has been wrong about their coverage. They're not saying that.
What I'm asking you is
sufficient for me to make a decision.
To make up your own mind.
It was a partisan information. The media has been partisan. The media, instead of reporting facts for individuals to make decisions, it just followed people. He wanted to promote individuals and particular groups within political parties.
Stay with us, Matata. I'll give you a chance to come back. It's 9:45 on SAFM. Moira in Johannesburg will come to you, Don in Cape Town, and then we'll get full on into the idea of partisanship. Can the country be partisan? Should we have more publications that say we are pro-DA, we are pro-IFP, we are pro-PAC, or we are pro-ANC? Stay tuned. This is Morning Talk on SAFM.
In a major coup for Classic Fuel magazine, the December and January issue includes a rare and exclusive interview with none other than J.M. Coetzee. Among other things, the Nobel Prize-winning author discusses stage and screen adaptations of his works and his lifelong love of music. Read this and much more in the December and January edition of Classic Fuel magazine. Available now at selected news agents and bookshops. Find out more at www.classicfuel.co.za.
Are you a fan of PSL soccer, or even better, a supporter of a PSL club? Whichever you are, no matter how deep your involvement, you cannot afford to miss out on the conversation that is for the first time bringing together in one community, in one conversation, all the PSL football lovers. As if the conversation alone is not enough, there will be competitions with prizes to be won. Be a part of this conversation for you not to be left out. You cannot be a part of this conversation, nor can you participate in the competitions and win prizes if you are not registered. To register, dial *120 *4455#. now.
Morning Talk on SAFM.
Yeah, Lucky Mlonzo says, even on sports, you find big teams like Pirates or Chiefs getting a huge chunk of media coverage than other teams. Tsedu is right. That's Lucky Mlonzo tweeting at Mbulivuyo. Matata?
Yeah, I was going to say that Ntlantla disappoints me with the kind of general statements he was making now that media never apologize. I mean, we all know there's the Broadcast Complaints Commission that makes sure that complaints around issues of either wrongful reporting, non-factual, and all of those things, unfair coverage, are dealt with and apologies are made. We know that there's a press ombudsman, there's a whole new regime that has just been adopted and even approved by the Conference of the ANC in Mangaung now, accepting that the regime that has now come into force it's a much better system, but apologies are made. Now, it is intellectually dishonest to go on a radio station like this and say media never apologize. So that is actually incorrect.
Okay, let's hear from Moira in Johannesburg. Moira?
Hi, Vuyo.
Hi, Moira.
How are you?
Fine, and you?
Very well, thank you. I would like to say the media is doing a very good job because I was well informed going into Mangaung and what happened there in Mangaung. But I do have a criticism in the sense that the media doesn't give enough coverage to other parties. I mean, I know everything and all the policies about the ANC, but about the DA, I don't know what the DA stands for, what's the DA opinion on e-tolling, what would they do if they were in government.
What publications do you read, Moira?
You see,
what publications do you read?
It's the Sunday Times, mostly. And then mostly then I listen to SAFM.
Okay.
Yes.
So we on
but
SAFM
sometimes I don't get so
you...
much information about other parties as opposed to the ANC.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Moira. Let's hear from Don in Cape Town. Hello, Don.
Hello. I'd just like to say that the written media, I don't mind them being partisan, but I do object to the fact that for the whole of 2012, we've had ANC thrust down our throats in every single talk program. I mean, I think SAFM is not South Africa's news and information leader anymore. It's the ANC's news and information. You know, and it's disgusting. I mean, for a whole year. So anyway, that's my contribution.
That's your point. Okay, Don, thank you very much. Michael in Campton Park, good morning.
Hi, Vuyo.
Hi, Michael.
I just want to concur with Matata and a lot of other people because, you know, if a party wins 2%, 1% of the vote, I mean, how many readers are you as a newspaper or any media are you attracting there? How many people? As far as I'm concerned, it's insignificant to talk about somebody who is, who hasn't attracted enough attention for anybody. For you to be profitable as a newspaper or as any media, you've got to attract a lot of people. So I think it's right that the newspapers must concentrate on those who will read their newspapers.
All right. Thank you very much for the call. Just reading again from the Nelson Mandela by himself, a book of quotes. This one says, "The media fraternity is more than just a critical observer of history in the making. At least in our young democracy, it contributes not merely by being a watchdog. It is a builder. It is an active participant." He was speaking at the Cape Town Press Club's 21st anniversary celebration in Cape Town on the 31st October 1996. Now, Ntlantla, you know, in your next answer, you'll probably respond to what some of the callers are saying. But also, is it your view that South Africa is now ready for a partisan media, newspapers, radio stations, SAFM, Morning Talk, and saying, we are pro this political party? Finish and clear.
Just let me deal with Matata. I'm sorry that he is disappointed. What I've said, Matata was not even generalizing. I was specific. I'm saying, as the media, you are wrong when it comes to the ANC politics and elections, and you need to apologize. I'm not generalizing. So it's not about you. If you are saying I must go to Press Openman to ask for that apology, I'll do that. But I'm saying you've been wrong. You've been putting a particular line. You've been, instead of critiquing, you ended up questioning and even supporting, and you've been wrong. You must apologize. But on what you are saying, Vuyo, I think for me, it's for the media itself to make a decision. If they want to support DA, for example, there is nothing wrong. In America and in Europe, newspapers are supporting individual parties, and they don't have a problem in saying that, and people buy them knowing that. I'm saying in South Africa, we buy newspapers under wrong pretense. We buy a newspaper thinking that you will have festival of idea, only to find that you're buying a partisan newspaper. You listen to a radio station with the view of having festival of ideas. You end up having one view. I'm saying it's up to Matata and media to say we want to support ANC or DA, but I'm saying please be fair. Just say it so that I'll make a decision. I've bought a lot of newspapers. I've listened to a lot of radio and watched TV. My expectation was festival of ideas. What did I got? Partisan media.
Partisan in what direction?
In a sense that it was promoting, for example, as one caller has said, it was talking about one political party, in this case the ANC, for right or wrong reasons. And it ended up not discussing about ANC as an organization. Some editors even wrote and suggested to all of us that this leader is good and this one is not good. Hence, I'm saying that I'm not expecting, at least as this citizen, as
but
this person.
When you're talking about the apology, you're saying the apology must be about what?
I'm saying, for example, if I'm writing something and mislead all of you, it's honorable of me to say I've misunderstood or misread the situation.
Give me an example. What has been written that is misleading?
For example, some editors, Sunday Times, Financial Mail, in Sunday Independent, they said firstly editorially, because let's start there. Editorially, they've suggested that a particular, in this case, Jacob Zuma is a wrong candidate, he won't win. In fact, they created a competition where you have none. If you read it from these newspapers from July, you'll see that, in fact, Kgalema was not even in the game, but the media, in my view, after reading them, it's clear that the media, because I argue, they were fighting their own battle in terms of secrecy bill, they ended up creating a competition where there's none. That's one. Number two, they've created competition unfairly so that we'll buy their newspapers. I'm saying that's not fair.
So are you saying Kgalema ran because of the media?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying the media created a competition, in my view, where is none, for two reasons. For the first one, for their preferred candidate, and there is nothing wrong with that. If you prefer Kgalema, I have no problem with that. If you prefer Zuma, that's not my issue. But they push all of us, and I'm saying we've been used as citizens, we've been used as listeners, as readers, to read, to listen for a particular group within the ANC. I'm saying it's not fair. If SABC, we want to support ANC, say it so that I'll make an informed decision not to tune in. If Sunday Times or Sunday Independent want to support DA, just say it. Don't pretend as if you are fair while you know that you are not.
Matata?
Yeah, I think the most fairest thing to say is that Nkanta is entitled to his point of view. The responsibility that media carries is to try as humanly as is possible to reflect society's foibles and victories. The competition within the ANC was not a media creation. It was there, and the media just reflected what was happening. And if anybody was either in that hall in Mangaung or watched television and the coverage, you would have seen that there wasn't that competition. So it is not a media creation. But to go back to the real question about partisanship, I think there is nothing wrong in newspapers being partisan. They must say so publicly. and so that when I read that paper, I know. I mean, when I read the New Age, I have an expectation around it, given what they said that paper was going to
Was
be
it the
about.
case when you were editor at City Press?
What case?
That you were partisan to a particular political party?
No.
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 Was that a conscious
we
editorial
tried
decision?
As is humanly possible,
Yeah.
to be as fair to everybody as we could. And as I was saying, when you're running, let's say, a paper like City Press, you have serious journalists who you're working with. You're not going to just try and turn their stories around, leave their byline on there, and they will just accept that. It doesn't happen like that.
Okay. Let's go to Soweto. Pat, good morning.
Good morning, Vio.
Hello, Pat.
Yes. Ntlantla, why doesn't he go to the website of the DA if he wants a DA view? To come to this platform and say that he doesn't have an informed decision. It's just he's not looked for it. Because you can go to media is not only newspapers, not only SABC. Media is it's galore. You can go to any other source and find that message. So his argument to me, I'm trying to listen, and then it doesn't make sense to me completely. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Pat. Ntlantla?
I didn't hear what Pat was saying. We are sorry.
Oh, he was saying that if you wanted information, say, about the DA, you could go to the DA website.
No, I'm sure I don't have to answer that one. The issue we're talking about the media. I assume that everyone here has a website. Everyone might not have a website, but many people might have a radio. And I'm talking about the media here. The point is, Vuyo, whether it's DA, IFP, or ANC, we deserve better from our media. Our media should inform us as citizens so that we'll make an informed decision. And I'm saying I'm not getting it in South African media. Today, I don't know what is the stand of DA or IFP or AWP for that matter on nationalization. And the media must inform me.
Yeah. But editorially, I mean, you understand also that the media is driven by numbers and those kinds of elements. So when editorially people decide, not many people, Ntlantla may be interested, but it's a small number of people, we want to focus on what would be a significantly larger portion of interest.
Well, as a researcher, it would be interesting for me to read that research, how they know, for example, that people, Sunday Time readers, don't want to read about IFP or Azapo. How do they know that? I'll comment on that one.
Don't you base it on the numbers
for
the sizes of the party through the elections process?
Are we saying minority parties are not important in this country? Imagine a situation, you remember, Vuyo.
You are saying they're important, but in terms of the limitations that you've got in terms of space and the expenditure and all of that, you want to focus on the things that maximize your expenditure.
Well, I disagree. I'm saying if the media want to present itself, the media can present itself the other way, by the way, it can say to us, we don't care, we're just doing it for the money. They can say that and we have to accept. But so long as they are saying they are objective, they want us to be informed, we'll always argue about these things. For example, Matata is making an example of the New Age. I will even argue, Matata, that is not, if we are honest, you know that this government even fund some of the papers now than the New Age, because most of your advertisements are coming from the state. Hence, I'm saying that for me, that's not the issue. I don't want to be petty like that. But I'm trying to say a bigger question here is, we have a media in South Africa who must be honest with us as readers. Say to us, I support ANC. I support DA, so that I'll decide not to buy you because I want those of us who are interested in the Festival of Ideas who perhaps will have to rely.
Is there a newspaper or a station that presents you with a Festival of Ideas right now, Ntlantla?
Come again?
Is there a newspaper or a radio station that presents you with a Festival of Ideas right now?
No, as well, there was a time when this station was doing that. It's no longer doing that, unfortunately.
Okay. Thank you very much. Matata, a final thought from you?
No, I think we must congratulate Ntlantla for raising the issue, and it is an important issue. And South Africa will either upgrade towards an openly partisan media, or stay as free, independent, and being festival of ideas that I find it to be at the moment.
All right. Thank you very much. Matata Tsedu, former editor of the City Press. Nhlanhla Mdaka is with Ingabati Group. Thank you very much. 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 Ingabati Group. Thank you very much.